Good evening and welcome to MCS's election coverage 2024 for the special mayoral election. I feel like we've done elections already this year, but this is one that has a very special meaning to the city. I'm your host for the evening, Michelle Houle, and I'm joined by my co-host, Eunice Ziegler. Eunice, thanks so much for joining me tonight.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
So we should start with former councilor Eunice Ziegler.
Yes, that's correct.
But Governor's Council-elect Eunice Ziegler.
Yes.
So that is wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Before we even start getting into numbers and all that, because we obviously don't have them since the polls have been closed for about 37 seconds, tell me a little bit about what Governor's Council is and what you're going to be doing.
Yes, so Governor's Council is such an important role that many people have never heard of, never realized was on the ballot, but we approve judicial appointments, so all judges go through an approval process through the Governor's Council, parole board members as well. We also approve clerk magistrates, justice of peaces, and we approve the warrants that come through the governor's office. While the legislature approves the budget, the Governor's Council approves the invoices that come in. They give the final approval to send the check out. So it's definitely a checks and balances on the executive branch and another avenue for voice for us in the district. And this district, District 5, that I'm going to be representing starting in January, is 36 communities large. And a lot of people don't realize how large it is, but I like to describe it as an awkward shaped L. So if we're starting from the North Shore, there's Salem, there's Rockport and the Cape Ann area, moving up towards Methuen and Haverhill, over towards Dracut, Lowell, Tewksbury, Dunstable. So it encompasses so many different cities and towns. And I'm excited to serve in this district. And how I was able to get here was because of you who are watching. You know, on November 5th, folks came out and they voted, much like today. They voted for their choice of representation, and I was so honored to receive enough votes to become the next governor's counselor for District 5. So I'm so forever grateful for that, and I'm excited to continue my leadership.
It's huge for Methuen to have somebody representing in such a large district. I mean, 36 communities, and you actually are going to have a little say in what happens in those.
Yes, definitely. And I think one of the things that many people don't realize is that, you know, this seat has not had someone from the Merrimack Valley in representation for over 20 years. It's normally been a representative from the North Shore area. So we brought the seat back. This is the first time that this seat is being represented by someone from Methuen too. So Methuen is further on the map. So we have two higher level positions. Not only do we have a state auditor from Methuen, but we also have a governor's counselor from Methuen. So there's a nice trend that's happening here.
We're going to get you guys into that governor's office yet.
Well, we're down the hall.
Okay, that counts. That counts. Speaking of the governor's office, though, since it's called the Governor's Council, how closely do you work with the governor?
So we work very closely with the governor. So the Governor's Council is chaired by the Lieutenant Governor. And in instances where there may be a tie vote, the governor will come in and they will break that tie. Also, when we're talking about appointments for judicial seats, the governor has to send those recommendations over to the Governor's Council. And so essentially the Governor's Council and the governor, they work together, in that the Governor's Council is that checks and balances that we talked about on these appointments to ensure that the vetting process was done correctly and that whoever is going to be sitting on the bench is going to be a quality candidate, because we know in Massachusetts, a judge serves for a lifetime, essentially. Judges are able to serve until age 70. Most judges are getting appointed in their 30s or their 40s, and so that's a couple decades of leadership.
Yeah.
And in my lifetime, I haven't seen or heard of a judge being removed from a bench in Massachusetts. And so we have to get it right, and we have to get it right the first time. So it's so incredibly important and impactful, the work that the Governor's Council is doing.
Is there a limited number of how many judges are allowed in Massachusetts? Like with the Supreme Court, you always hear 12 judges, but is it like Massachusetts gets 462 judges and you just decide where they go, or?
So there are set level of seats per branch. So there's a district court branch, there's a superior court branch as well, and so essentially, I'm not sure the breakdown of how many are in district.
You're
how
still
many
in elect, so that's okay, because that's
how many are in the Supreme Court.
That's going to be the January.
But yes, there's a certain slotted number in both sectors, and our job is to ensure that these positions are filled. Right now, there are quite a few vacancies on the bench, because you think about it, if you're serving for a lifetime, we're seeing more and more retirements taking place, and so I want to get us into a good rhythm where we're proactive instead of reactive as to when someone is going to retire. Because when we have these vacancies in the court system, we have delays in cases being processed and cases being heard. So that is at a disservice to everyone and anyone who has to go to the court system, for any matter, a matter of business, a matter of family, you name it.
Yeah, because you hear of people that, well, my hearing will be up in 2 years or 3 years. And that, I would think, is because if you don't have enough judges to do the work, they can only do so much per day.
Right. That's exactly correct.
I've been fortunate enough to only have jury duty once. And it was like 4 or 5 days that judge was there, like 8 hours a day. So he wasn't doing anything else during that time.
Right. Right,
So
that's correct.
that kind of ties it up. I never really looked at it that way, but you're kind of limiting how many people you can get through the court systems at a time.
Yeah. And that's why it's important that we have a plan to make sure that these positions are filled, and they're filled with people who are going to abide by the law.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, everybody, jury duty is a wonderful civic obligation. It just was a long 5 days.
I've never actually done jury duty. I was called once, and I was actually excited because that's, who I am as a person. And then you're supposed to call in the day before and figure out whether the case is on or not, or off, and the case was off. So
Yeah.
maybe one day.
I was just really excited to get a really cool case, and then it turned out to be like 5 days of just talking about the weather, literally, because it had to do with that. But anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And now that I've put it out into the universe, I won't see you next week when I get called. Turning a little bit to our special mayoral election, as a former council, you probably have a little bit more insight into this than I do. Obviously, the mayoral election is being held due to the passing of Mayor Neil Perry, which is sad for all of us. But it's also unfortunate in that he did not finish out the first year of this term. So is that why we have to? I've heard so many different reasons for why we have to have a special election versus, oh no, the council could just name somebody. So why do we have to have a special election instead of just naming somebody?
Yes, so you're exactly correct. The unfortunate passing of of Mayor Perry did set the clock for us to have this special election. So in our charter, it is outlined that should the mayor become incapacitated, that we are to hold a special election within 60 days. And so the first provision of that was the naming of the acting mayor. So the first meeting of the city council in January, they did appoint a acting mayor, who's Mr. Beauregard, who at the time when it was, determined that our mayor did pass, he automatically assumed that role of acting mayor. However, as opposed to previous times where he had served in that role, our mayor was not sick or ill, he had passed, and so that's what triggered the charter clause that held that the city council needed to call the election and then hold it within 60 days to ensure that that position was filled in the interim. So flash forward to today, where hopefully thousands of residents in Methuen came out and voiced their support for, the candidate of their choice, so that we could have a continuation of executive leadership here in the city. This has, to my knowledge, this is the first that this has happened in our city. So it is an interesting time. It's a somber time because, it reminds us why we're here, because of a passing of what I believe to be a great mayor who really cared about the city, who really put his all and really gave his all to the city up until his last breath. And so we owe it to that legacy of leadership. We owe it to ourselves as a community to continue on. And so in just a few minutes here, 15, 20 minutes or so, maybe longer, we'll have an idea as to who will carry on that mantle. And we'll be called to continue to be engaged, right? To continue to ensure that we are providing for all residents in Methuen, that we are making our voices heard around policy, around budgetary priorities, you name it. This is a participatory, government. And so I'm, sad in that we're here because of the passing of our past mayor, but hopeful that we can continue to be a tight-knit, unified community and celebrate and gather together around ideas and gather together around support for one another.
Whichever of the gentleman wins tonight has kind of a unique opportunity too, because the mayor is term limited out after 3 terms, so 6 years. This year will not count into that term though.
That's correct. So
this will potentially, or should be, the longest term anybody will ever serve as mayor.
Yeah, and that's why it just makes it such an interesting and critical time in history, right? Because to have that much of a, roadway to effectuate change, we know that our mayors, once elected, they get elected, learn the job in the first year, and then try to create some new policies in the second year while they're running again for re-election. So it's a quick turnaround. This gives a little bit of that buffer where they're able to learn and also start to put some policies and initiatives forward and help to see them through. Because in my experience in local government, sometimes it does take a little bit for initiatives to really be seen through and for you to see the full effect and the full impact of it. I think about, things like Methuen Day. Started off 7 years ago, small event, 1,000 people, out in the rain, out in the cold, to flash forward to this past year where we had over, 7,000 people that crammed into the downtown throughout the day. And that came from years of getting community members engaged and excited and helping them to understand the importance of us gathering together, us supporting and acknowledging our small business community, our art community, and then, bringing this energy to encourage others, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing more of that.
I think it's a fascinating correlation that you made between Methuen Day and the term of mayors, because like you talked about, you have to start over again every 2 years. Methuen Day, you guys have something to build on, and you've done a great job building on that. So this is something that whoever takes this seat could potentially really kind of take a nice little page out of that book and use it as a way to build on. One of the big questions that comes up every few years, and this is total speculation on both of our parts, but I feel like every few years it comes up, should we keep term limits? Should we get rid of them? Should we go to 4-year terms? Should we go to 3-year terms? Do you think finally having a mayor that might have a longer lifespan sounds so wrong, seat span, do you think that that might get people to start maybe thinking about that a little bit more in depth than usual?
Yeah. So I'll use the word tenure. I think that would be a nice medium. For me, I believe in the power of term limits. You know, having served in a capacity where I exhausted the entirety of my term limit, I understand that, you know, it's sad, but it also was beautiful in that I was able to serve the community that I love, that I was raised in, to the full capacity, and leave space and room for fresh blood, for new ideas to come in and take the city forward. We need that. We need that in all sectors. So I think that's important on the city council level. On the mayoral level, I think we could benefit for an increase of terms of a tenure, to be honest. And just going back to what we were talking about just a little while ago, the hustle and bustle of having to learn the ropes in the first year and then the second year try to effectuate change while running for re-election, and then it's a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Right? For effective leadership, executive leadership, continuity is key. And so if we were able to get to a place where even if it was a 3-year term, I think that would be amazing. I know that topic is controversial in the city, unfortunately. But when you're running a organization or a business or a city or town, which we are now, we know that we benefit from that knowledge base. We know we benefit from expertise and skills. And what better way to build expertise and skills than expanding a tenure, right? So I view it in that way. Will that happen? I don't know. You know, it all has to do with the will of the city. In past, when we've had these conversations, the will of the city has not been in support of expanding, you know, a mayoral term, and that's okay. You know, we have to make these decisions together, right? And all we can do then is, with what we have, the 2-year terms across the board for school committee up through mayor, is make sure that those 2 years are the most effective 2 years that there can possibly be. Because every 2 years there's that election, and though the tenures exist, that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, whoever's in that seat will serve the entirety of their tenure. You know, I know that there's been counselors that I've served with that, you know, did not serve their full 6 years or did not run for their last term or their last 2 terms. Maybe they served 1 term and decided to take a step back or what have you. So we have to really plan for these type of variables as well, and not just assume that, you know, a candidate is going to run the 3 times that they're allotted. So I think about all these things, and I think about, you know, how to make sure that we are in the best place possible as a community.
As I'm sure both of these gentlemen are planning to do come tomorrow when they start, whether it's continuing or starting their new position. So I hear a little rumor that some of the numbers are starting to come in. So I'm going to make this a little tease, and we're going to throw you to a commercial break for a couple minutes while we get those. Okay, scratch that. I'm seeing a no, we're not going to commercial break. So much for reading off of the screen in front of me.
No worries at all.
So, you know, this is just how live television goes, and you just get used to it.
I love it, you know?
That's the fun of this.
This is real.
Yes, this is moment to moment, people. You don't understand. There's somebody crawling in right now with a piece of paper.
There's no cropping out of anything.
Nope.
There's no editing. This is what's happening right here, live in studio, as it should be.
I do understand that one of the precincts is having some issues with the counting. Let's talk a little bit about what actually can cause issues with counting. You know, as far as most voters know, you fill in a circle, you put it in the machine, you walk away. But what goes on at these precincts after that happens?
Sometimes if the machine itself has the glitch and it doesn't properly count one of the ballots, then the poll workers will have to hand count. And so, you know, if you have 500 people or 1,000 people at a precinct, not only is it, you know, one person hand counting, but there's checks and balances. So it's counted by one person and then double checked by another person. Sometimes they may do that process a couple times to make sure that it's correct, because they owe it to the voters to ensure that the results that are being given are accurate.
I see that we have 50% of our votes in, and I'm going to ask them if they can put back that screen. Not that I was ignoring it. I was just, you know, chatting, and I got really interested. So as of right now, with 50% of the precincts reporting, James Sarcione has 688 votes. And Acting Mayor DJ Beauregard has 1,787 votes. So it looks like there's a significant lead for Councillor Beauregard. Is he still considered Councillor Beauregard, Acting Mayor Beauregard, or how does that work?
How does that work? I would say Acting Mayor, because that's his current title as an appointed, you know, member to that that position. So yes.
But of course, that's only 50%.
That's only 50%.
And we've all seen how a 50% football game can go.
Yes.
You know, just ask a lot of players out there. You know, you could get halfway through the game and things change. So we won't say specifically yet. But I do have a question as for Councillor Beauregard. Do we have to do this all over again within 60 days?
No. So this is different. So the charter has the 60-day special election clause for our executive leadership. For the council itself, the council will have to convene a special meeting in order to appoint a council member. Should Acting Mayor Beauregard be victorious in this election, the council will hold a special meeting. They'll appoint a council member to finish out the remainder of Councillor Beauregard's council term.
Now, since we don't really have a historically to go by, what would be your guess? I've heard that it would be whoever had actually come in second or after Councillor Beauregard in the original race back in November of 22. November of 22 or November of 23? I'm so confused by now. So
23.
Is that like a definite given, or is this that, you know, somebody might still pop up and be appointed to that?
So it's all up to the council as to what direction they go in. I know that typically I believe within the council rules, if the runner-up has secured 40% or more of the vote, then they would be the heir apparent, if you will, to be appointed. However, if that candidate or candidates did not secure 40% of the vote, then it is up to the discretion of the council whether they go with the runner-up or if they go with another member of the community. But it would have to be, whoever they put up for appointment, it would have to be someone who gets at least 5 votes of the city council, which is a majority in order to be appointed. So the city council does have some work to do within the next week, because that would have to be done within the next week for continuation of leadership in the legislative branch.
Now, I know I had said historically we don't really have anything to base that on, but there's a little tiny mouse in there that's saying, no, there has sort of history. When Councillor Fountain had moved out of town, he had stepped down as city councillor, if I remember right, and somebody was placed in his stead as well to finish out his term. Or am I just totally making that up off of the cuff?
Yes, that was a special circumstance as well, and that was an appointment of the city council that was done. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what city council decides to do, but we will know soon enough whether or not they have to even think about that, or whether this was a premature conversation, because as was said earlier, only 50% of the vote has been counted. So no winners are being declared at this time. The numbers that you saw that were put up on the screen are just 50% of the vote. And so as we continue to get numbers in, we'll get a more clearer picture of how the election is going to turn out.
Now, if they're telling me the truth this time, we're up to 55% reporting, and we do have a new screen with some new numbers.
Okay, let's see.
So James Arcioni has picked up a few votes to 726, with DJ Beauregard having 1,881. So they actually both picked up, a good, decent number of votes.
Yes,
considering,
about 100.
There's potentially 42,000 plus voters in the city, so the turnout was a little low, and we're still waiting for the central district numbers, but it does look as though DJ Councillor Beauregard, acting Mayor Beauregard, really did jump right into the East District, right into the 1,000 vote category.
Yes.
So,
which makes sense given that he's a resident of the East District, so his home district did come out for him. And in the West District as well, we see a split of 287 for Mr. Sarcioni and 784 for acting Mayor Beauregard. We still have central numbers to report. Now, these numbers that we're seeing on the screen, this is total reporting for East and West District?
Yes, it is 55% voting. We're still waiting for the Timony numbers and Senior Center's precinct number 5.
Okay, so just clarification. So this is just 55% of all the districts, of all the precincts in East and West. So it's not entirely all the votes in both those sections of town. So we still have a lot of votes to count. And then when Central comes in, it'll be nice to see, what that spread is across the 3 districts.
To go back to something we had started to talk about when the numbers came in, you'll notice on the lower corner it says uncertified results. And that's kind of important for people to note, is that these numbers are the numbers that they have tonight, but then they do another whole recount tomorrow to make sure that these are actually the actual numbers.
Yes, because for this election, as with the last election, folks could vote by mail. Folks could also put their ballots in the ballot box right outside of City Hall. So for instance, if someone put their ballot in, you could put your ballot in the ballot box right outside City Hall up until 6:59 tonight if you didn't make it beforehand. And so if someone did that and for some reason that wasn't caught tonight, but in the morning when they're doing their count, and they catch it, they will make sure to put that in. That is rare, but it could happen. And when that happens, then you'll see it will switch to certified results. And then those certified results are also given to the Secretary of State as well, so that they have, those results also.
So the city clerk's office is just crazy running around right now, trying to get all of those numbers, making sure that everything is right. And they work so hard to make sure that all of our votes are counted. And, even if you didn't color inside the lines perfectly, those get flagged so that they can take a look and see if maybe there's a way to tell which person you meant to vote for.
Yeah, it's definitely a meticulous process, and I have to give credit where credit is due and hand it to our city clerk, and frankly all city clerks out there across our country, because Election Day is like their Super Bowl, right? There's so much that goes into training poll workers, making sure that they know where they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to do, making sure that everything is coordinated for the polling locations, that the machines are working properly, that counting is done in accordance with Massachusetts general law, and that everything is organized to a T across the city. Now think about Methuen. We did this on November 5th. And now, just a short month later, we're doing this again. So there, to my knowledge, there aren't many cities in the Commonwealth that are in this position where, having had an election in November, also having one in December that's citywide. And so I can only imagine what is going on at the city clerk's office, and how they're working so hard to make sure that we have access to this election. And it brings me back to when I was serving as a counselor. One of the pieces of legislation that I put forward was to encourage increased community awareness around elections. And this election, for the first time, I got a robocall from the city clerk's office saying, we have an election coming up tomorrow. Please come out and vote. If you don't know where to vote, call the city clerk's office and we will inform you of that. And I think that is huge. That was just one of the provisions that was in that piece of legislation. Another was, sending out reminders via mail. Another was putting out reminders on the electronic signs. And I saw that. I saw the reminders on the electronic signs go out. There was a lot of engagement on social media to remind people to get out and vote. And that's democracy, right? That's civic engagement. That is ensuring that people have access to their right to vote, to voice their opinion, and to really make a statement that, this is the representation that I would like. This is the direction that I would like our, city to go in. And so I think it is a great thing. I'm excited to see more of that coming down, and just wanted to really give those kudos out there. So if you're going to the city clerk's office this week at all, I encourage you to just say thank you, to them for the hard work that they're doing to make sure that this is a successful election.
Definitely. I saw some more gestures of the person behind the screen. And it looks like we have some more numbers coming in. This is 90% reporting.
Wow.
Again, you still have that 10%, although it's very rare for 100% of the votes. Would you say it's rare to see 100% come in at once?
Sometimes there is a delay. Yeah, I agree. Sometimes there is a delay. But with 90% of the votes counted, and Central District is now on the map, 90% of Central District as well. We have the Central District split as Mr. Sascione at 242 and Acting Mayor Beauregard at 680. 90% reporting, right? Yeah. And it's a full spread of Mr. Sascione at 968 and Acting Mayor Beauregard at 2,561 votes.
We are still waiting for the Senior Center Precinct 5 and it looks like Timony Precinct 6A. If I put my glasses on and swallowed my pride, I might be able to see that better. But it looks like there was actually only 28 ballots cast in that precinct. So that probably might not take them too long to get us the numbers. Why do you think numbers are so low? Like you said, this is a civic obligation, but it's also a way to know who's going to be deciding who takes out your trash next week and who raises your taxes or lowers your taxes. So why do you think sometimes municipal elections don't get as much of a turnout? And again, total pie in the sky question.
I think it harkens back to civic education too. You know, not many people realize that there's an election every single year, without fail. There's an election every single year. Most individuals focus on the presidential election every 4 years and get really excited and engaged in that and just kind of, you know, forget about the other elections. But local elections impact us so much more, impact our daily lives so much more. And so a part of it is just getting people to see the importance of that, because we got so caught up in the day-to-day. And especially this time of year, I think part of why our voter turnout may be a little bit lower is, you know, we're just coming off of Thanksgiving. People are so focused on Christmas coming up in a couple of short weeks from now, and are just swamped with so many different obligations, and have not really, you know, had the time to focus on this election in particular. In a city of over 50,000 residents and over 40,000 of them registered to vote, you know, we're seeing a total turnout of a little under 3,500.
Yeah. We do have some more information from the all-important control room. There is a problem with the results for Precinct 6A, and they will not be in tonight. But the 28 ballots are probably not going to make much of an impact. And what is left over doesn't seem like it will make much of a difference either. So would you like to be the one to announce where our future is going to be for the city of Methuen?
So as you saw in the numbers, we had a little over 2,500 votes for acting Mayor Beauregard. And we had a little over 900 votes, I believe, for Mr. Sarcioni for the position of mayor of the city of Methuen. And with 90% of the vote reporting, I'd like to congratulate acting Mayor Beauregard, now Mayor-elect Beauregard, on a successful election, and wish him all the luck and encouragement as he seeks to move the city forward.
He's going to have his work cut out for him, as any new mayor does. So definitely, as you said, congratulations to him. But I'd also like to give a congratulations to Mr. Sarcioni, because anybody who puts themselves out there to put yourself on a ballot is opening themselves up to a lot of different people, different atmospheres, different things. And I'd like to congratulate him on a well-fought campaign. And I think both of the men were true gentlemen during this. You didn't hear any of the, you know, trash talking that you sometimes get with elections. And I think both of them had a really good showing for, you know, what a special election with a very low turnout. I think they both did very well, but definitely the numbers show that it's a congratulations to, as you said, Mayor-elect Beauregard.
Yes, I agree. And just to add to that, Mr. Sarcioni, I agree. Thank you so much for running and putting your name in the ring. This race was a challenging one. To put together a campaign in such a short period of time and to really go out there and give it your all, just it shows a deep love and respect and care for the community. So I have immense respect for Mr. Sarcioni for putting himself forward, and for Mayor-elect Beauregard for also putting himself forward. And to everyone who went out and voted, thank you, thank you, thank you for engaging in your civic duty, and encourage others to continue to do so every year.
It fascinates me to think that these two candidates were able to put this together. I've met candidates who announced 2 years before they start a campaign that they're going to campaign, and they had 60 days. That is just amazing in itself. And I think that might be an indicator of how either one of them would have done in the job, to be able to just step up and have that ready to go in that short amount of time.
Oh, of course. This is a fast-paced, learn-on-the-go type of position. And so anyone who's able to put together a platform, a website, materials, get out there and be visible in such a short period of time definitely demonstrates a willingness and an eagerness to serve the city with that same level of respect and intention, and which is key. I know that there have been elections for mayor where only one candidate has put themselves forward. And so in a election as challenging as this, you know, for two candidates to put themselves forward in such a short time frame, that really shows you that, you know, we have people in this community who really want to see Methuen thrive, and that's an exciting position to be in.
Yeah. I think it's wonderful to see that, you know, 3,000 people did come forward and they care about their city. Not to say the people that didn't vote didn't. There's maybe a reason that they're not there. But to see anybody come out with such short notice, almost, and be able to come out less than a month after, well, just about a little more than a month after another such a large profile election, I think that says a lot about Methuen as a whole, that people care about their community and they want to see it continue the way it has grown over the past few years. And now we'll be having state level representation as well.
Yes.
So how do you see the Governor's Council working with Mayor-elect Beauregard? Do they have a lot of interaction between city and state in this case?
Well, to me, I see it as another voice of advocacy to the governor's office. The Governor's Council office is just a short few steps away from the governor's office. And so, you know, being a Methuenite and a Ranger at heart, I would have a direct line to continue to advocate for the community. So definitely there's opportunity to continue to partner and follow up on calls for support, advocacy for funding perhaps of any projects that may be of urgency to the community, and just elevating the fact that Methuen is a special place and it's an amazing place to live, to visit as well. And so I can encourage that and demonstrate that to the governor's office in partnership with the mayor's office here in Methuen.
I understand that we may be having a special guest coming in a little bit, so we're going to continue to chat for a little bit longer, if that's okay with you.
Yes, definitely.
And I hope it's okay with you at home, because I think you're going to enjoy hearing from this special guest, as if you can figure out who it's going to be. So let's take one more look at those numbers real quick. Now Mayor-elect DJ Beauregard with 2,561 votes against candidate James Sarcioni with 968 votes. And of course, again, like we said, these are uncertified, but the 10% remaining is probably not a large change that will affect it too much. So I think it's safe to definitely say that it will be Mayor-elect Beauregard. So as a former counselor, former election winner, what goes through your head when you hear, hey, you won? Is it yay or is it, oh God?
It is joy, pure joy, but it's also just surreal because you think about everything that went into the campaign. In my case, I ran to represent 36 communities and went to every single one of those 36 communities several times to meet with people and encourage people to support my candidacy. And then to get to the point where you're sitting there and you're seeing the results and you realize that all of that effort has brought to fruition a success, it is overwhelming, but it's an overwhelm full of joy, and it's an overwhelm that's full of excitement, and then also just questions about what the next steps are. Yep. So I can only imagine, what the feelings are for Mayor-elect coming in, of, okay, this is happening, the dedication and the time away from family, the time away from friends it takes in order to make this happen has, led to a success. In the same regard, like I also know the other side of having, lost an election as well, and how, that can be a difficult, awakening of, okay, you've put yourself forward and it did not necessarily yield the results that, you wanted, but at the same time, you can rest assured that you did everything that you could, and that you put your best foot forward. You had the support of your family, you had support of people that cared about you, and you took a chance, and no one can take that away from you, and so I'm saying this from a lens of understanding where both candidates may be at this time, and, at the end of the day, both candidates were successful in putting themselves out there and successful in showing that this is a community that they live in, that they invest their time in, that they are or have raised their family in, and they are happy to stand behind. And that is, again, to me, just such a beautiful and powerful thing. And we're so fortunate in this community to have that. So it's definitely an exciting time, but also, a bittersweet time because this signifies the next step, and so now we'll see, there are some big shoes to fill, to continue to fill with the future leadership of the community, and Mayor-elect's future leadership.
And not just the fact, I'm pretty sure Mayor Perry was like 7 feet tall. he was,
that's part of it.
He was a very imposing figure that really had a big part of the community for his time in office. And like you said, it's going to be big shoes to fill. We use the term winner as the person who gets the most votes, but I don't think the term loser should be used. I think it's just maybe you didn't resonate with the voters at that particular time. You could come back 6 months later, a year later, maybe a different position, and resonate differently. Like you said, you lost an election, but continued, and now you're at state level. So sometimes it's just a matter of timing.
Yes, definitely. So I encourage, anyone who's run for office, thinking about running for office, to keep at it, because the community is better and stronger with the more choices for representation that we have out there, and it gets us into the room together to have a conversation as to how we like the city to progress forward. And so I think it's definitely a great thing, for sure.
Along those lines, if people are thinking of voting, 2025 is the next city election.
Yes.
So, and quite a few of the councilors are termed out this time.
Yes. So you have both, I believe both positions in the Central District, maybe essentially any position on the city council is up for election.
True.
Sometimes we tend to get into a groove of saying, well, this seat is not open because this person has another term, but no seat is owned by anyone. So anyone can run for any seat. But when we're talking about council seats that may be termed out, in the West, we know that Councillor Safi is termed out in the West, so she cannot run for re-election. We know that Councillor Ferretra is termed out in the Central District. At large, we'll have, you know, an open seat because you'll have whoever is appointed now to former Councillor Beauregard's seat, I guess, Mayor-elect Beauregard's seat. They will have to, you know, run for re-election should they choose to run.
If I'm understanding the term limits correctly in Methuen, though, like you mentioned that Councillor Safi and Councillor Ferretra are termed out in their current positions, but they could run for councillor at large. Is that correct, or am I wrong on that? Because I'm okay with being wrong. It's not the first time.
It hasn't. I guess that's a gray area. It hasn't been done. Typically, you know, if a councillor is termed out of the council, because it says of the council, it doesn't necessarily in the charter break it up into district seats in terms of how the term limit is applied, but they could run for school committee. So if you take Councillor Campagnon, has served the city graciously for over 30 years in various capacities, having served on the city council, then on the school committee, and on the city council several times, you know, reverting back and forth. That is, you know, something that is open to folks to do as a leader within the community. But historically, no, people don't typically go from district seat to an at-large seat.
6 years is a long time.
It is a long time.
It's a long time to be serving. We do have 95% of the numbers in, and I know we've already called it, but let's take a look at those numbers and see what we have as the unofficial official votes. So James Sarcioni did break 1,000 votes with 1,011, and Mayor-elect Beauregard broke 2,000 with 2,711. So a little bit more than double. I think it's interesting they both end in 11, though. Just, you know, total weird thing to notice.
Yes.
But it's just kind of interesting that they would end up with the exact same difference that way. And we are at an 8.7% turnout. So it's kind of low, but for, you know, something that isn't normally pre-planned. And a lot of people do go down and, you know, live in southern states for this time of year, and they may not have honestly even known that there was an election if they left before the announcement was made. And yes, I know I'm giving a lot of credit here, but
or some people may have, you know, gotten the election materials and thought it was a mistake because we already had one not too long ago. Because you have to think about the turnaround time. Right after the presidential election, the mail-in ballot information needed to go out.
Yeah.
Right, so some folks may have just still kind of focused on the numbers from the presidential election, not realizing that we are turning gears to a new election so quickly, which is Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting position to be in, for sure.
And again, a great kudos to the city clerk's office, because they did not get a break between the two.
No.
You know, usually they get at least a couple days of downtime, but
No downtime.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's some vacations planned.
if not, we need to have that written into your bill there.
Yes.
We are going to take a little bit of a break now, and then we are going to be holding the exclusive first interview with the city's newest mayor-elect. So stay tuned, and we will be right back.
You think getting dumped by text is harsh? Try getting dumped by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I bought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills, like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it.
You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Me and my boy Matt had it good. He had catnip that was off the hook. But one day, he brings a girl home, and she's allergic to cats. Every sneeze was a nail in my coffin. Now I'm in a shelter. It's decent, but they don't even have Wi-Fi.
Welcome back to our live election night coverage. We are here at the MCS studios with our live exclusive first interview. I feel like we're on TMZ. This is so cool. I'm your host for the evening. I'm joined by my co-host, Una Ziegler. And we are joined by Mayor-elect DJ Beauregard.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming in. I know you have all sorts of places to go and be. So we really appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely.
How does it feel?
I'm relieved that it's over, at least this go around. When Mayor Perry passed on September 21st, there was an instantaneous transition without the traditional time for the usual transition period. And oh, by the way, not only do you have a new job, but you have to run to hold on to it over the span of the next 2 months. So it has been a whirlwind. However, I have had tremendous support from my family, my wife Hillary, our 6-year-old daughter Audrey. They are my rock, my parents, my siblings, my campaign team, the office staff, the mayor's office staff as well, helping me hold down the fort on days like today when, kind of going crazy going around the community. So I have a great village, and I'm very grateful for that. And when I spoke with my supporters earlier tonight, I started off by sharing that I've had Neil on my mind all day, especially tonight. Yeah. And I think just in looking at the results, I think we have a clear mandate to continue the work of moving our city forward. And I heard tonight from Jim Sarcione, who I want to say is an incredible guy. He is a gentleman. We actually developed a rapport over the campaign. We've stayed in touch. and I look forward to keeping him involved. He clearly cares about our city, and I want to make sure that his voice is heard and represented in our government in whatever capacity we can settle on for years to come. So that's really where my mind is at. I think, we've had the election today, and now tomorrow morning I'm going to get up like I usually do, go down to City Hall at 8 o'clock and get back to work. We have a lot of major issues right here at the forefront. We need to make sure that we are fairly and competitively compensating our teachers and paraprofessionals. That work is ongoing. We're commencing with the school department audit. That contract will be in front of the City Council. I was hoping to have it on the December 16th agenda, but there's been some wrinkles that we have to sort out. So I'm looking at having that in the next few meetings. So we have a lot of work to do, and I can't wait to, I shouldn't say get started. I've already gotten started back in September, but to just keep going. And I'm very grateful for the vote of confidence from the residents of Methuen tonight.
A long time coming. You have been involved in Methuen politics for, we won't mention how many years?
Well, since I was a teenager. And the reason for that is there's a guy who some folks out there might know, former Governor Michael Dukakis. After he left the governorship and ran for president in 1988, he ended up becoming a professor at Northeastern University. And when I was 16 years old, I sent him an email. He had never heard of me. I'd never communicated with him before. And I said to him, I would love to meet with you, because I had heard that he was very passionate about instilling, going back to the passion word, passion for public service in students and in young people. And so I had the opportunity at the age of 16 to go down to Northeastern University and meet with him. And he has been a mentor / grandfather-like figure to me ever since, now going on almost 20 years. And, he said to me at one point that, oftentimes people have negative views of political figures, people in government. And some cases, a lot of cases, that's well-deserved. But there's an opportunity for good people to get involved, people who have a good heart and who realize that public service can be a truly noble line of work. And I think that's a mindset that I've adopted. I know Governor's Counselor-elect Ziegler, we're cut from the same cloth, I think, in a lot of ways. And it's that spirit that's really guided me to want to follow through with ensuring that our city is on the best path for the future. And I think the best way to do that is by getting involved at this level in local government and making a difference, so that Methuen is a place where my daughter will want to raise a family too.
Has she learned to say, my daddy is mayor yet?
Well,
6, she's probably got it down.
We try to, whenever we have the opportunity to demonstrate to her the value of being in public service, that's something that we take those opportunities. My wife is a nurse at Holy Family, so she serves people, but in another way, in a life-saving way. And so, we're trying to raise Audrey to see that there are many different ways you can make a difference in people's lives and try to make people's lives better, whether it's as perhaps a nurse or, being in the world of government and making decisions that impact people's day-to-day lives. There are so many ways to get involved and to do right by our fellow people.
So you're going to have to be sworn in again? Or
I think so, yeah.
So we'll be looking for information on that.
You know what? I will be too, because I'm not familiar with the process beyond the election. We've really worked hard during the election, and for me, I was always intent on not taking anything for granted. We had so much support in the community, but I treated this campaign like I've treated any other campaign, where I'm going to give it my best, give it my all. But in doing so, my mindset had really been geared towards Tuesday, the 10th of December, versus, I guess, the logistics of the swearing in. But we will get there.
Yes, definitely take the time to enjoy tonight, of course. And I'm sure the work is going to continue now that you don't have, the cloud of will I be continuing after December 10th or
Right.
will I have to pack boxes on December 11th?
Right.
What are some of the things that you want to get accomplished in your interim term?
Absolutely. So we have a huge opportunity, as I mentioned, with the schools. I think this is really a make or break moment for us in terms of ensuring that we are taking care of our teachers, our paraprofessionals, ensuring that we're able to attract and retain quality educators. I think that really is at the forefront of my agenda at this point, is to get that settled and move forward there. We have numerous issues related to, and I don't mean to harp on the schools, but we have a lot of facilities related issues that we're trying to deal with as well. We have the audit, so there's the education piece, which is significant. We also have a lot of infrastructure issues, looking at our police station currently, the Quinn building. The condition of that building is dire, to say the least. It's one of those buildings where they have a lot of, old items that are in place where, like, for instance, the heating system, it's either on or off. There isn't any type of temperature adjustment. And so when it's on, oh boy, it's on. And the officers in that building struggle to, work in those conditions. And also the Central Fire Station, we've had this issue. And Governor's Counselor-elect, that's your proper title, so I'm going to keep using that even though it's kind of wordy. You'll remember that anytime we wanted to order a new fire truck, we had to have it custom made so that it could fit at the Central Fire Station. Those doorways were designed at one point to accommodate kind of like a horse and buggy situation, not a ladder truck. And so, looking at issues like that, that's not really sustainable. So the key word in my mind that I have going forward is sustainability. How do we take a lot of these issues that have been sort of on the surface, not really dealt with? How can we make these things sustainable? And so one of the things that I'm looking at is we have an opportunity perhaps over the next couple of months to begin a feasibility study to look at a new public safety building that could potentially house both our police and fire departments and provide them with the infrastructure they need to operate, in 2024 versus in, say, a long ago time period.
1924.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, education, public safety, infrastructure. We have ARPA, the allocation of the ARPA funds. That needs to be completed by the end of December, so we're going to get that settled officially once and for all at the December 16th meeting. The other thing, too, that I look forward to doing, aside from, this sort of nitty-gritty stuff as it relates to governing, is continuing with Mayor Perry's spirit of just really trying to do all that I can from my position to just build a stronger sense of community. I look forward once and for all, too, to bringing back the Mayor's Minute Show, which I loved. And
this is your literal
I'm just
playground.
sort of giving notice about that now. I'd love to do that. And just find more opportunities for us to cultivate our sense of community and allowing everybody in Methuen to feel a sense of belonging.
You've done a great job of that as counselor, and I think you'll continue to do a great job of that as mayor.
Yeah.
So, let's take a look at these numbers one more time, just so you get to hear them,
Sure.
just in case you missed it the first time. So we have James Sarcione with 439 in the East District, and Mayor-elect DJ Beauregard with 1,097 for the East. James Sarcione 242 for the Central, DJ Beauregard 680 for the Central, and James Sarcione 330 for the West, and 934 for Councilor, now Mayor-elect, DJ Beauregard, for a total of 2,711 against 1,011, and that is with 95% of the precincts reporting. So I think once again we get to tell you congratulations.
Thank you very much. And I look forward, I see the numbers over there. I see the 1,011 number there for Mr. Sarcione. I look forward to being a mayor for all of Methuen, regardless of whether somebody voted for me or voted for another candidate. I want to be a mayor for everybody.
Somehow I have a feeling, even though I'm not supposed to give opinions, I think you'll do a pretty good job.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us
Thank
tonight.
you for having me.
And
thank you to the people of Methuen for placing your confidence in me. I'm going to do everything that I can to not let you down.
I know you have places to be, daughters to go home to. And I want to thank you, Governor's Counselor-elect Una
Try
Ziegler.
saying that 10 times fast, Michelle.
Yeah, I don't think I can. That's why I've just been going with former counselor.
There we go.
But I want to thank you for joining me tonight. This has been great to have you on set, and you're welcome back anytime.
Definitely.
In fact, people would probably prefer you just stay and I'll go, but
I'm not far.
Sorry about their luck. We want to thank you for joining us tonight, and we hope you've enjoyed our election coverage tonight, as well as our exclusive first interview with Mayor-elect DJ Beauregard. Stay tuned to Methuen Community Studios in the next few months as we follow him along and see how things are going to be going. And we look forward to seeing you all in the new year when 2025 brings out a whole new set of candidates. Thank you again for joining us tonight. Wishing you a happy and safe holiday season. And once again, thanking you for your turnout today. I'm Michelle Houle, for Governor's Counselor-elect Una Ziegler, and Mayor-elect DJ Beauregard, and all of us here at MCS. We want to thank you for joining us, and have a good night.